Answer me one question, please. How do you even know that Jesus existed? Jesus existed.
Of the prophets and priests and the martyrs that bleed, it was time for TawfiQ to defend the king and the gospel of peace. Alright,
before I begin, I'm reminded of the story of the man who was persuaded that he was dead. He went to his doctor, and his doctor tried to reason with the man that he was really still alive. Finally, the doctor asked the man, "Do dead men bleed? If you cut a dead man, does he bleed?" The man replied, "No. The heart is not beating, there's no blood pressure, dead men don't bleed." The doctor then took a scalpel and stabbed the man in the finger, and he proceeded to bleed. As the blood continued to come forth, the doctor said to the man who believed he was dead, "See, you're bleeding. What does that tell you?" And the man answered, "Wow, would you look at that? I guess dead men do bleed after all." Now, that's a humorous story, but the principle is this. After all is said and done, let's not be like the man in the story. Let's not hold on to our beliefs, even if the evidence points us in the other way. Both sides. Let's follow the evidence to wherever it leads. Let's be honest here. Okay? The roadmap for today, I don't know what simple it is, but I got 3 points for you. First point, Jesus was not copied from the myth of Osiris or any other myth for that matter. Point 2, the Bible does indeed claim that Jesus is the Son of God. And point number 3, I'm going to use the evidence of the resurrection to show that the only logical conclusion is that Jesus indeed was who he said he was, the Son of God. Next slide, please. Now, I'm sure y'all have heard these things before. I mean, with the Da Vinci Code, right? You got the quote, "Nothing in Christianity is original. The pre-Christian god Mithras, called the Son of God and the light of the world, was born on December 25th, died, was buried in a rock tomb, and then resurrected in 3 days." It's my new TV voice, if y'all know. Then you got, next slide, please. The Zeitgeist. Y'all have heard, y'all seen this movie on the internet, I'm sure, YouTube, right? Horus, born December 25th, of a virgin, star in the east. He had 12 disciples. He was crucified, he was betrayed, resurrected 3 days, so forth and so on. There's a myriad of other people who have these same claims. Next slide. The question we gotta ask ourselves is it true? Right? I mean, that's what we gotta ask at the end of the day. Is it really true? Because if there really are other gods whose myths closely resemble the story of Jesus, if they were worshipped thousands of years before Jesus was ever written of, if we have no historical evidence that Jesus actually existed, then we really have a reason to doubt, look into these things, and ask some serious questions. But we're going to look deeper into this, and we're going to see if this is actually true. Next slide. We need to look into the mythology of Kemet. Now, I say Kemet, we understand Egypt, but Egypt is a Greek word, so I'm going to use the word Kemet. First of all, the word monolatry, okay? Monolatry is a different concept than monotheism. Monotheism is believed that there's one God who manifests himself in one form and one form only, nor is it an undifferentiated polytheism where many gods appear in many separate and distinct forms, kind of like Greek mythology. Monolatry is a special form of polytheism. It's actually like pantheism, similar to what the Native Americans worship. They have a multi-god structure, still providing the possibility of understanding all divine beings as part of one divine source. Now let's look at, next slide please, let's look at the person of who is Osiris, okay? Again, Osiris, much of Egypt, if you just go in the library right now, and you look for a book on Egyptology, a lot of what you get is going to be actually Greek influenced, okay? Because Greeks came in and they kind of took over some stuff. Now, Osiris is Greek. His Kemetic name is Osiris, okay? Now, the Kemites did not believe in gods as we see. They believed in something called netter. It sounds a lot like nature because it would be an overgeneralization to say that's exactly what it is, but it's kind of that concept that all things, as we heard in another truth, all things are sacred, all things are holy, all things have a symbolic aspect to them. Now, it's also, we need to note that the mythology of Osir has not always been what it is today. He has absorbed some other netter. His story has evolved as it's gone on, which is seen in the work of Plutarch. If you read Plutarch, he was a Greek, and he came in and he actually finished off the story, which we'll look into that later. Next slide. Let's look at what the myth of Osir actually says. When I say myth, I asked my brother Asar, is myth, that offensive? He's like, no, not at all. So I'm saying myth, but it's not offensive. Okay? Osir is murdered by his brother Seth, and he really got demonized. Anyway, Seth, he wanted the throne. Osir he was ruling Egypt, real banging, and Osir wanted to usurp the throne. So what did he do? Osir had this party, right? And he invited all these people. So Set came in, and he had this coffin. The coffin was beautiful, overlaid with gold and ivory. And he said, listen, anybody who can fit this coffin can have it. So Osir's like, cool, all these people tried, no one can fit it. Osir didn't know that it was actually already fitted for him. So, Osir, trusting his brother, gets in. What happens? He got 72 boys with him. They nail it shut, put lead over it, and throw it into the Nile. What happens? He drowns. But good for him, his sister wife, Aset, better known as Isis, she comes to the rescue. She finds the coffin, and who's in it? Her dead husband. But she puts on a magic spell, and she magically reanimates him, almost kind of like a zombie, because who was going to get the throne? Set. So she magically reanimates him so that he can impregnate her, which is who Horus is, and then he goes back to be the Lord of the Underworld, which is who he is today, according to the myth. Now, again, some of the Osiris myth comes from Plutarch, which is, if you read, it says that he was ripped into 14 pieces, scattered throughout Egypt, and she found all the pieces, all except one, which was his phallus, and a fish ate that, and that fish, anyway. Now, let's ask ourselves, does that sound anything like the gospel? Does that sound anything like the story of Jesus? No! So what's the problem? We're missing something. Well, we're not using the proper terminology, that's what it is. Now, Osir was betrayed. Jesus was betrayed. You got a parallel. Osir was drowned in water. Jesus was baptized in water. Let's change drown to baptized. Now we got another parallel. Osir died, Jesus died. Cool, we got another one. Now, Osir was magically reanimated by his sister wife so that she'd have sex with him before he became a lord of the underworld if he wasn't ripped into 14 pieces first. But that doesn't sound right, so let's just say Osir was resurrected. You see what's going on here? They take Christian terms and put it on pagan stories in order to make a parallel. Now, what's really more plausible? That the writers of the New Testament, I'm sorry, I don't think tell me what to go to. Next slide, please. That the writers of the New Testament, who are monotheistic Jewish men who despised the pagan religions of their neighbors, decided to borrow from the very religions they hated, put together a hybrid religion, kind of like a gumbo, that stars a made-up God-man that they knew was false, in order to convert other Jewish men who also hated the idols and doctrines of these myths in an attempt to emulate the very cultures that they were disgusted by, who, by the way, if they accepted it, would have been stoned to death under blasphemy laws. Or that exactly where the writers themselves said they were drawing from, namely the Old Testament prophecies of the Messiah, was actually their sources. Oh, I almost forgot. These men were willing to die for what they knew was a lie. And they say Christians live by faith.